really starts. The game I had neglected for most of my adult life, because I just didn't get it. The game I was slowly but surely coming to terms with. And trust me, it's about to get hairy.
He's not wrong. What an awful way to end a video. And what's up with the hair? Get it cut, you bum. Solid video all around, though. I hope he can top it. Oh, wait. I'm he. Well, looks like we've got our work cut out for us, my radical dreamers. Let's jump into it. Oh, yeah, I think my monitor's messed up. If anyone knows how to turn off the nostalgia preset, please let me know. It's been like this for days. Chrono Cross, otherwise known as Squaresoft's entire PS1 catalog tossed into a blender. Oh God! The Chrono Cross landscape has changed far more than I expected in the last year, in the scope of this little experiment with it. During the February 2022 Nintendo Direct, Square Enix announced Chrono Cross was getting a remaster, which wasn't out when I wrote this, but is out now that I've started recording this. Because you know me and scheduling, it features optionally upgraded visuals, cleaned up music, battle modifiers, and it's all bundled with an officially localized Radical Dreamers. You know, the Satellaview Chrono Trigger visual novel sequel that directly inspired Cross and never got an official Western release? Yeah, that one. Thanks for ruining my joke, guys! Not to mention, there was a huge tie-in with the mobile game Another Eden with voice acting for the main cast.
Cause I'm the only one that can.
Serge, my boy, you sound so good. Just so we're clear, I manifested all of this, by the way. Yeah, you heard me. I localized Radical Dreamers. You're welcome. I hereby deem this the year of Chrono Cross, and I guess that makes this two-parter turn into a three-parter. Make sure you come back next time when I talk about the remaster and Radical Dreamers. Not the mobile game, though. Well, maybe the mobile game. I don't know if people really care, but as of now, probably not. Yell at me on Patreon or something, I don't know. Now, if you didn't watch the first video, we covered how Chrono Cross fared as a game up until the end of Act 1. I also discussed enough of the story to give people an idea of what was going on before things got weird. I'm going to proceed assuming you've watched that, because we're going deep into spoilers. This will cover what happens from the beginning of Act 2 up until the end. Alright then, you've been warned. Now, before we really get started, my editor has instructed me that I should probably address some of the inaccuracies in the first part. You know, for optics and integrity and whatnot. So please take a minute to read the following. Okay, asshole, real funny, I get it. Let's just get into the video. We left off with Serge and Kid entering Fort Dragonia. You know, I'm happy I got the gameplay discussion out of the way before and I can focus on the story this time. Now I have absolutely no obligation to explain what it was like to trudge through bad dungeons. Xenogears, I am not. Hello Xenogears fans, and welcome to my channel. I can't feel sensation anymore unless I take potshots at beloved RPG series. It's not you, it's me. If you'd like to file a complaint, get in line behind the Trails fans. Anyway, cool nightmare fuel bosses aside, Fort Dragonia is a mid-dungeon that goes on too long. Also, not to get all cross-armed video game YouTube reviewer nitpicking rant-sona, but you're telling me that Link just deactivated all the dragons and then ran through the door to the elevator before it closed? Did he and the general practice this or something?
Alright man, we gotta do practice runs so this'll be real cool looking when they show up at the tower.
So cool.
Okay, so on the count of 3, you hit the button and I'm gonna dash in really fast and slide under before it closes.
Okay, so like on 3 or 1, 2, 3, go.
No! We're not doing this bit. You know when to press the fucking button.
Alright man, fine, jeez. Just trying to lighten the mood.
Okay, 1, 2,
Oh shit.
3!
man, you good?
Now, this isn't the first time you've seen this place, and it won't be the last either. We're talking 4 times max. Where are my fellow dumb brains at? Huh? Just me? Yeah, that's fair. Oh, when that media res ketchup hits so good! Finally, you face off with the Bozo duo in the Dragon Room, and make pretty quick work of them both. But then... Oh my god, I cannot believe that General Nefarious could possibly be capable of backstabbery, Viper. Real head scratcher there, my guy. Lynx turns out to be Surge's trauma panther of old, and then hits us with the good old libertarian nonsense. Dude, oh my god, what have you done?
Well, you see, Surge, racism goes 2 ways.
What?
And really, with this government, licenses for driving cars, what's next? Licenses for our damn toasters?
No, really, what the fuck are you talking about? It turns out this was Lynx's plan all along, switching bodies. Lynx Surge stabs Kid while Surge Lynx watches, and in hindsight, this doesn't make much sense. But it's cool, so we'll give it a pass. We take those. And hey kid, general rule of thumb, when the previously silent protagonist suddenly changes his portrait and starts talking about how he's a proponent for small government, red flag girl, run! Lynx Surge mentions how he now has the Key of Fate, tells Surge Lynx to come to the Sea of Eden, and then yeets him off to the paint dimension. Ooh, let's catch our breath. I know your brain is reeling from my impressive 10 jokes a minute pacing, so apologies in advance for the upcoming tonal whiplash. We just need to take time to smell the roses. This is the temporal vortex, a world governed by chance and chaos. No, not like that. This serves as Surge's lowest point in the game. But it's also a chance for him to take a breather and collect his thoughts. The Vortex's only resident is an old woman named Sprig, who couldn't help but develop a sense of nihilism due to her situation. In a world of uncertainty, where true happiness is fleeting, life seems devoid of meaning. But isn't that not too far off from reality? We ourselves live in a world that quite often seems to lack any and all order, but that doesn't mean there's no beauty to be found in it. It's all around us. We just might not appreciate it in the moment. Harl, oh yeah, she's a clown lady you met who likes to hang around Lynx, puts Surge's sense of identity and resolve to the test. Are you really Surge? Are you the person on the inside or the outside? During this test, he struggles through an almost endless maze of uncertainty. His old friends are now out of reach, paying him no mind. Where a lesser person would have probably given up, Surge overcomes, proving himself to Harl and showing self-worth and understanding of who he is. And it is only when he's able to do that he is allowed to play Echochrome. Yeah, I'm sure like 3 people got that reference, so totally worth ruining the emotional payoff for everyone else. Afterwards, the party escapes the temporal vortex and winds up in the Hydra Marshes, in the homeworld no less. Except something is off now. That tropical overworld music just doesn't hit the same anymore. It feels wrong. Surge revisits his old home, expecting solace, but that's not what he finds. Boom! Turns out your friends and family were secret bigots. Yep, all of them hate demi-humans. Even Lena's a racist. You know, that one's not really too surprising though, I kinda always had a feeling. Trying to explain the situation to them gets him nowhere. They just don't believe him. The prejudice runs really deep. People are screaming at him, telling him to not eat their pets. The most vile shit. Interestingly, for those thorough with NPC dialogue sweeps at the beginning of the game, you'll find that this was actually pretty well set up, with a couple of his neighbors negatively referring to outsiders. If you weren't, this is probably a pretty big surprise. However, this being easy to miss and easy to dismiss on first glance is very intentional, and upon reflection, a brilliant story beat. If you recall, for basically the entire first act of the game, your exploration is limited almost exclusively to the Another World. When you do manage to come back to the homeworld for a second, you're limited to where you started and Water Dragon Isle, which you can't even freely sail to. You're quite literally restricted from expanding your worldview. In this moment, he has to accept the fact that he essentially lived a life of privilege in a society full of bigotry. There are two readings here. One, Surge has never realized how prejudiced the villagers he knew and loved actually were, or two, he was naturally complicit in that prejudice. Regardless of how you interpret this scene though, it leads to one conclusion. Surge is now forced to experience life from a new perspective, and his ability to actually explore his own world is tied to his own personal development and discovery. He gets to experience what it's like firsthand to be a part of a group his own society discriminates against, and is now specifically in the body of the demi-human people hate the most. Knowing how bad this world, his world, truly is, and how things are even a little bit better in the world where he doesn't survive, how can you not internalize those feelings? For the entire game up till now, he's only wanted to return home, return to his regular life. But is that home even worth coming back to? Is that old life even worth living anymore? Escape isn't an option. Surge can't travel between dimensions without his original body. He's an unwanted piece of a puzzle far grander than anything he could possibly imagine. However, there is one person who will listen to and comfort Surge: his mom. Surge tells her what happened about Lynx, the Sea of Eden, everything. She mentions how Surge's father Wazuki and Lena's father Miguel were lost there 14 years ago during a storm. Miguel never came back at all, and Wazuki was never the same until disappearing one. Quit the exposition, Radius busted through! Obligatory boss battle, you kick his ass, he realizes you're Surge, and then joins the squad to figure out what happened to General Viper and Riddell in this world. Come on, Life Alert and Clussy, we got a mystery to solve. Clussy, Clussy do, where are you? We got some work to do now. There are some neat differences in the worlds that you were never able to see in Act 1. Termina goes from a peaceful port town in the other world to being completely occupied by the Pore military in the homeworld. While the citizens hate you for the most part, your furry new appearance does allow you to travel to places a teenager never could thanks to Lynx's status as a general. One of those places is Viper Manor. Well, more like the ruins of it, as it's been completely destroyed in this reality. You're here to talk to Norris, a commander of the Pore military, who fills you in on what happened. Lynx appeared in this world 3 years ago, and with his plans of aggressive military expansion, invaded the archipelago to find the Frozen Flame. Norris wants to join you to figure out what happened. So he gives you a boat, with your main goal now being to go to the Dead Sea. Sorry Radius, have fun warming the bench, my guy Norris is here to take your place. Reason? Gun! And the game is open once again. No one is telling you how to accomplish your goals now. It's up to you to discover the world for yourself. You can visit areas to see how they differ in the home world, find new treasure chests, and speak to NPCs. Explore, recruit new party members, gamble, discover a... There is a lot to do here before going to the Dead Sea, and more or less being a few hours away from getting your body back. So I implore you, take your time. If I got into every single detail on why you should, we'd be here all day, but there's a lot of depth given to side characters, some cool quests, and some fun fights. All this right here, this was the first moment I truly started to fall in love with this game. Surge no longer has his old allies or the sympathies of the world. He has to start over from less than nothing. So many RPGs attempt to tell variations of the hero's journey. You start with a young character, unsure of where they stand in life, and set off to see the world, using the act of growing up as a gameplay feature of sorts. At least, in theory. From all of the Square games of this era, none pull off that connection between gameplay and story as well as Chrono Cross. At least out of all the ones I've played. If you have any others, let me know. Hell, few RPGs, period, pull off these occasional bursts of open-ended progression as well as it does. Probably because of the puzzle adventure game influence I mentioned last time. I wonder if Kato played Myst. I wonder what he thinks of the Selenita gauge. I bet he probably liked it. Yeah, I bet it was his favorite. If you weren't exploring in the earlier bits, this act might leave you frustrated. While it wasn't the reason I didn't like the shift to Act 2 when I was younger, it certainly contributed. Nevertheless, I will once again use my soapbox to preach that you should never listen to the opinions of your younger self. The ability to question outdated perspectives is something all adults need to foster in order to lead balanced, healthy lives. Chrono Cross conveys this with story and gameplay in a goddamn 90s RPG. Previous foes are now allies, and old allies are now foes. Or just disinterested. All I'm saying is I bet Glenn would have pulled up. Oh, fuck off, Guile. L plus ratio, plus you aren't Pierre, plus your interesting character traits are removed from the game, plus your element grid fell off. So Lynx, how about next time you skip the contrived moral dilemma and just aim a bit better, huh? I've got a big meeting with the boys on playthrough 3 that I don't want to miss. Chop chop. The game is saying, go out and explore the world you were born into and see it for what it really is. All the evil, all the beauty. Surge is looking for himself. And that's not something you can find unless you know where you came from. After all is said and done, you can finally enter the Dead Sea, one of my favorite areas in the game. Strap in everybody, because we're about to get into the batshit Kino zone, only occasionally veering off and crashing into the we ran out of money gas station. The water here is frozen in time, allowing you to quite literally walk on the ocean. Oddly enough, this part of the world is futuristic, and the music is slowly building intrigue as you explore. I don't know, am I alone in thinking that this is one of the best JRPG tropes? Oh, look at me, I'm in my cozy fantasy setting, time to lower my guard. What the fuck is that? Kato and his team deserve all the credit in the world for coming up with the Dead Sea. Their brains are so huge. God, you know, I'm a bit envious of people who played Cross before Trigger. They probably got hit with such a stronger mindfuck here, as tripping and falling into apocalyptic futures happens in like hour 3 of that game. At least they threw Trigger fans some fan service bones. I'm gonna get eviscerated if I don't mention the Lavos scene you can find, but I actually forgot to do that on this playthrough. And I didn't want to go back for footage, so I don't know, I'm just gonna find a picture online. Look! Lavos!
I clapped because I know.
Chrono Trigger.
I know what that is!
Your party eventually reaches the Tower of Geddon at the center of the Dead Sea. Ground zero of the galactic time shards, and a shopping mall dungeon. Are you kneeling yet? Go on. I'll wait. God, the atmosphere in this area is so good! I didn't give this segment nearly enough credit when I was younger. The ambience, music, and pre-rendered backgrounds tell such a cool story. As you make your way through this area, Surge starts to see the ghosts of 3 mysterious children. Or at least what the game tells me are children. They look more like anthropomorphic pixel blobs. You'll also find out what happened to the Acacia dragons of this world. You remember them, right? The cool, classic, them. They died, or something. Oh God, that's so sad. Anyway, don't mind me, I'm just gonna walk over here and unlock easy mode real quick. As you continue through the Tower of Geddon, the 3 ghost children seem to be guiding you somewhere. If it's not obvious by now, this is Luca, Marl, and Chrono. You know, those classic characters from... Xenogears. Look, it's Luca Xenogears! Big fan. The place you arrive at is none other than Lean Square, and it's here when those who haven't played Trigger will probably be somewhat lost, or at the very least, fail to understand the weight of what this scene represents. As you finish Chrono Trigger, one of the last scenes before the credits is the establishment of Nadia's bell. It's the symbol of the hard work you put in defeating Lavos, a promise of a better future, a representation of returning players' feelings towards one of the greatest games ever made. And it's in shambles. Love or hate this moment, and trust me, I know a lot of people hate it, this is undeniably a bold direction to take the story. Surge is berated by the protagonists of Chrono Trigger. They tell him that he's responsible for all of their hard work being for nothing. Surge, justifiably, has no idea what they're talking about. He hasn't done anything. Yet, time and time again, people around him keep accusing him of making the world a worse place, simply for existing. A line that really stuck out to me is, "So many lives were supposed to be saved. This planet was to be healed with love, hope, and dreams." There are fans who hate this scene. I'd know better than most because I was one of them. You're telling me that all the time I spent in Trigger amounted to nothing? That all of that effort was wasted? 0 out of 10, Chrono Cross. You ruined the sanctity of Thing I Like. Now I'll never be able to look at Thing I Like the same ever again. And I refuse to budge on this stance. That's it, we're done. Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. As always, huge shout out to my Reddit community, r/sweaty gamer boys against Tatsuya Nomura. We're currently 1 million members strong. Make sure to like and subscribe, and join me next week for part 84 in my planned 200-part video essay series on why Final Fantasy VII Remake killed my dad. Here's a bitter pill to swallow. A future of peace was never possible in Chrono Trigger's world. I think the ending for that game is perfect for the game they made. A fun, epic shonen SNES RPG. And yeah, I know not every SNES RPG had a happy ending, but you have to admit, within the scope of Chrono Trigger, the ending just fits. Chrono's basically just Goku with a sword. Of course he gets to run off into the sunset and become king. But as for the state of the world, you're kidding yourself if you didn't think there were no repercussions for the Trigger crews meddling with time. And evil didn't just die with Lavos, that's an unrealistic expectation. And if you think about it, in every story ever told, that world established continues to live on long after we close the book on it. Happy endings serve to offer us closure, allowing us to wipe our hands clean of the world we invested a part of ourselves in for a time, and move on with life. But, in a manner of speaking, that world will still live on, even if we're no longer there to witness it. And not to be cynical, but frankly, eternal peace is a myth in any reality. Positive change isn't just something gained once, it's something people have to work towards constantly. I believe that Kato and his team, when trying to figure out where to take the Chrono series next, had an understanding of this. We all finished Chrono Trigger and put the controller down thinking that love, hope, and dreams would be enough to keep the future safe. But it wasn't. And Lean Square, once a symbol of human perseverance, is now stuck frozen in time as a proof of humanity's failures. Fuck, this game is so cool. Miguel, who was probably waiting behind that pillar for decades, decides to reveal himself and finally explain what's going on. On that stormy night all those years ago, Surge, Wazuki, and Miguel ended up in Chronopolis. Look, I know, we'll get there, hang on. The doomed future of Lavos that was eliminated by the Trigger Kids, and the happy future they fought for that was eliminated by Surge splitting the timeline, were both condensed into the Dead Sea. By fate? I won't lie, this gets a bit all over the place, but I fuck with it. Miguel asks Surge to join him in an endless nothing, where he doesn't have to struggle against life's hardships anymore. Unable to reason with him, you fight. There's no other options. No battle music interrupts this somber moment. It's a powerful scene.
Why are you running?
You know, I remember Miguel being extremely hard on my first playthrough. Dude straight up put the whole thing on pause for like a month. But, guess I never used auto-allocate because I kicked his ass. Please stop praying for my furry dad. He's too powerful. After the dust settles, Chrono tells you, yes, he talks now, that the vengeance of the future they killed is about to begin. Fate decides to destroy the entire Dead Sea to avoid the frozen flame being awoken by Surge, the Chrono Trigger, the only person who can awaken it. Okay, again, I love this game, don't get me wrong, but man, if this isn't one of those dictionary RPGs, you know what I mean, right? So many terms, it's easy to lose track of what's happening. You would not believe how many Wikipedia tabs I had to have open while writing this. And am I alone in frequently forgetting what the hell the frozen flame even is and does? Anyway, sometimes you just have to go with the flow, you know? Chrono Cross is definitely at points one of those let it ride kind of games. Anywho, you have your next goal. You can only access the Sea of Eden when all of the dragon gods spread across both dimensions are fought. And hey, now you can finally return to the Another World. Thanks, Miguel. Get better soon.
Lena,
Also, it looks like they didn't have enough money to animate a unique FMV for Link's crossing dimensions like Surge does, so he just kind of clips through the ground and ends up on the other side. We've now returned to the fuck around and explore part of the game. Everyone's favorite. There's new characters to recruit, like Karsh, the jobber extraordinaire, and a whole new dungeon that we can... Actually, you know what? No. If I explained this in detail, the video would take 5 more months, and I'd never hear the end of it. Surge, get in the chair! So, like, we did a stupid dungeon to fight a gross bug and a racially insensitive demon chef to save Riddell. Then we fought a cyborg. Then we fought a Gundam. And then we fought a Gundam again. And then the cyborg hit the Gundam with a chandelier. And then he joined us. Then we returned to the Friendship Shack, only for Lurge and Kid to show up. They were about to kill us, but thankfully Fargo, he's okay now, arrived to save us with a chubby pterodactyl friend. And Lurge was like, no way! And Kid was like, bugger, no way! And Fargo was like, yes way! Viper was also okay, flesh wound, and joined us. Marcy was okay, and joined us. Zoe was okay, and he joined us too. Harl had some not so great vibes, so we kind of let her stay on the ship and work it out. Hold on, is that a fucking alien? So then we like played some musical chairs at a concert and summoned some fish people to kill, and then we returned to Fort Dragonia to get a cool baby little dragon. Oh wait, I think I got off topic. Anyway, so there are these 6 dragons we had to kill. Okay, no, enough. I'm fast forwarding this. So like, definitely take time to get Surge's best weapon, the Masamune. The entire arc with that is A+ content, but fuck, I'm exhausted. Also, Orla's pretty good too, so I guess do her stuff as well. Oh, look, it's Lurge at Fort Dragonia. Kick his ass.
Damn it, Surge, nobody knows how freedom works.
what are you talking about?
Look, the proposition is simple. The government is inefficient, so we uproot the government and put healthcare on church donations.
Dude, that's honestly not even worth questioning because I know as soon as I do, you're just gonna...
Fuck you, got mine!
Yep, there you go.
All right, now sit that ass back down and learn yourself some evolution in the Dragon Room. At the dawn of time, there was the amoeba, which one day evolved into ape. One day that ape evolved into man. Alongside that man lived the dragon. which evolved from Chrono Trigger Dinosaur. You ever just use a dragon tear to grow a baby and then you become that baby and then the baby grows up really fast into a naked adult Surge and then you're just naked? Congratulations! You're a big boy now. Surge has now regained his identity while growing as a person, while also growing a person who became his new identity. Confused yet? Oh, my sweet summer child. We haven't even gotten to Crazy Town yet. He's finally found a cause to fight for, and his old friends will now join him again. But fuck those bozos. Y'all think you're just gonna be allowed back in the crew like that? But we all know they're not the crew anymore. All right, everyone. We have now come to the end of Act 2. It was a lot. But hey, hopefully Act 3 will give us a breather, huh? Why do I have a feeling we're gonna need this? Last time, I mentioned how I didn't care for the whole Surge Link switch when I was a kid. And I think now's as good a time as any to get into why that was. I spent a year trying to articulate this into words, and it hasn't been easy. If the previous mention of privilege bugged you, prepare to start fuming, preferably after you click out of the video. Bye now, thanks for the view. Now, I'm not sure if you've noticed this yet, but I'm a white guy. Yeah, maybe you see where I'm going with this. When I first played Cross, I was a middle-class, cis, seemingly straight white teen. Surge was practically wish fulfillment. He looked enough like me, lived in a beach paradise, and got to go on a fun adventure with a cute girl and some cool friends. To take all of that away and replace the player character with someone I couldn't relate to infuriated me. While I empathize with Surge's urge to get his body back, the critical thinking part of my brain pretty much shut off for everything else. You play as Lynx for a really long time, and I just wanted to rush through to get back to the part where I could play as someone that looked like me again. I didn't understand Surge's struggles, the feeling like the world hated him just for existing, and I didn't care to. I wasn't listening, and I shut out a game smart enough to understand a generation of kids who felt ostracized just for being themselves, all because I was no longer being directly appealed to. Make no mistake, I don't think Chrono Cross is some revolutionary, radicalized RPG with the answer to discrimination. But there's something here. Underneath all the issues, there's good intention, thematic ambition that Chrono Trigger never even tried to achieve. And I'll be honest, I don't know how much more I really have to say, and I'd like to not overindulge myself in white guilt. I'm certain that there are many minority voices out there who also love this game, so I implore you to seek them out. I can only speak for myself and acknowledge that there was a time when I refused to listen or empathize. And obviously, I regret that part of my life. That doesn't make me special in any way, it just means I grew up. I'm glad I gave this game another shot, because I keep finding more and more to appreciate with each passing day. But back to that later. We got a game to beat. Surge enters the Sea of Eden, another world's version of the Dead Sea. A change in the state of the world so powerful, it instigated a disk change and fucked up all my footage for the foreseeable future. As I alluded to earlier, the best games have a segment where it has the balls to break up the cool fantasy setting with an unexpected super futuristic area. Chrono Cross hits you with 2. Chronopolis is so cool. It's even better than the Dead Sea. And if you're wondering why I skimmed past the previous side content, it's because from here on, the story gets dense. For comparison, on the Wikia page's plot synopsis, everything that happened before now fits into paragraph 1 of 4. As you make your way through Chronopolis, there are these text dumps you can find on optional computer terminals. And it's a lot. What the hell? Oh wait, that must be the seatbelt alarm. because the ride begins now. Strap in. Yeah, I'm gonna need my laptop for this one. It's dense. So the fate mentioned by characters throughout the Cross story is actually a supercomputer made by Balthasar Chrono Trigger and Robo Chrono Trigger in the future city of Chronopolis. The researchers did a series of experiments on the frozen flame. For reasons we'll get to that. This created the previously mentioned galactic time shard that knocked Chronopolis into the Sea of Eden of 12,000 BC, which in turn changed history forever by creating the reptile/dinosaurs of Dinopolis. Wikipedia calls this shifting. Anywho, that eventually created the dragons, and then there was a war, and Fate won, and then that split the dragon god, yes there is a dragon god, into 6 elemental dragons. Fate began terraforming the area around the Sea of Eden into El Nido to make a civilization, because what else are you supposed to do after winning a giant war, I guess? This also explains why El Nido never existed during the time of Chrono Trigger, because it exists as a consequence to a future in which Lavos never destroyed the world. Fate then had the workers of Chronopolis' memories erased because they didn't unionize in time, and then had them populate the archipelago, deciding to control them with the records of Fate, aka your save points, making it so they couldn't change history or leave El Nido. These devices forced the residents of El Nido into following a specific path, literally ensuring its continued survival by robbing humanity of its free will so no one can change the future and erase its existence. You know, like the concept of fate, predeterminism, all that stuff.
Well, it doesn't make sense yet, but I'm sure it will soon.
Following the founding of El Nido, ghosts, but not the kind of ghosts like the Trigger Kids, ran Chronopolis while society thrived for the next 1,000 years. Also, apparently it got colonized at some point, that's important. Now, remember when Surge was attacked by the Panther Demon as a child? That caused Wazuki and his best bro Miguel to travel the sea to find help for him. How you can find help for your dying son in an ocean part of Balthazar's plan? I don't want to question that. I don't know. This is what led Surge to Chronopolis and making contact with the frozen flame. It is fucking hot in here. Let me know in the comments if you like the jacket. I think it's my favorite piece of clothing I own. This was actually a part of the plan between Balthazar and Lucas Xenogears to place a failsafe on the mother brain of Fate, which is Robo Chrono Trigger. Oh fuck, there goes Robo Chrono Trigger. I guess he's dead, moving on. The failsafe locked the door so no one but Surge could enter it, cutting off Fate's power source, creating a domino effect that split the dimensions into 2, all because Fate tried to gaslight gatekeep girl boss Wazuki into drowning Surge. Also, there's an optional terminal in Chronopolis that implies Radical Dreamers is a weird fringe 3rd dimension. Very cool. In the dimension where Surge lives, Fate can't exist anymore. That means Chronopolis can't exist either, which explains why the Sea of Eden is the Dead Sea in that universe, because the future that Lavos tried to make ends up happening and is no longer reverted. Despite that being the case, Chronopolis somehow manages to observe both different realities. Lynx, who is the physical manifestation of the physical manifestation of Fate, and also your dad as exposited by Chrono Trigger on the exposition beach at the very end of the game when they ran out of money and had to tech stomp the rest of the story. We'll get to that. Swapped bodies with Surge because the frozen flame door will only open to Surge's specific biometric DNA, QNA, RNA. This is why Surge is the Chrono Trigger and the Arbiter of Fate, because he can decide the future of both worlds and literally open the door of fate. Simple, yeah? Ugh. We're gonna need more of this. This brings us to the present, where Link Surge rejoins Fate, and then, in the most JRPG shit ever, you fight Fate. Lynx, your plans end here, dude, because we're going to free humanity. Radical Dreamer style.
Docs theme.
Oh, come on!
I lived my whole life according to the non-aggression principle, and now this, undone by a slack-jawed brute.
I'm Rand. I'm coming.
So, like, was I the only one who ever noticed that every single time we met him, he was just kind of talking through us and not to us? No? Nothing? All right then, cool, a different question. Remember when anyone would talk to me? Ever? No, me neither. So, you defeat fate, returning free will to the world. Kid wakes up from her brainwashing and then decides to fuck around with the frozen flame because, remember in that scene you may or may not have watched, she hates the world, so she does something? For the longest time, I actually thought she instigated what happens next with the frozen flame because Harl tells her to stop. But apparently she's just trying to hit the tech stump quota. So anyway, oh, did you think we were done with the environmentalist messages?
Think again.
The dragons were actually imprisoned by Fate, and with Fate now dead, that means they want to kill all humans by summoning a giant T-posing tower. They then vor each other, combining into a super dragon god before ascending to the top. Also, Harl is a dragon. Aw shit, now we gotta fight the Draclussi. Turns out killing Fate was part of a different plan thought up by the dragons to obtain the frozen flame, which they want to use to power up and wipe out humanity. We're what now, 3 simultaneous convoluted plans deep? Kid is in another coma, classic Kid, but Masa and Mune tell Surge he can travel back in time to the moment Lynx destroyed her orphanage. What that will help, I don't know. And yeah, they can just do that. But we don't need to devolve into CinemaSins here. Let's just slap a Kino label on it and move on. Excellent! You brave the burning orphanage to save Kid and the other children, meeting with a Lynx and Harl of the past before they yeet out of there. After escorting everyone to safety, you watch with Kid as her home burns to the ground. She laments at how she'll be all alone, begging for the older Surge not to leave her. You say you never will, comforting her with a hug. He sheds a tear, which Kid feels. However, Surge's time in the past is up, so he vanishes, leaving a crying Kid to fend for herself alone in a cold new world as the camera pans up. All right. Energy is brought back down a little bit after all that. I just think, from Chronopolis on, the game's hitting its peak. It's long and messy, but it's so interestingly dense, and the world building is fascinating. It is a trope for JRPGs to physically manifest sources of internal conflict, but it's a trope for a reason because it owns so hard. Taking the concept of fate, that our thoughts and feelings are predetermined and therefore don't matter, and making it a robot backed up by a novel's worth of lore, and then giving you the opportunity to beat it up in turn-based combat, it is so on the nose, and I adore it all. I don't think everything's conveyed in the best manner, especially considering all the extra details about to be given to us by the exposition kids before the final boss, but this story holds up so much better than I remember. Kid finally wakes up, and you learn that every time Kid is in mortal danger, she disappears from time and reappears somewhere else with a lapse in memory and no pain. This explains why she can show back up if you don't get the antidote for her poisoning during the Gnome Zone. Just kidding, not this time of course, because this time Norris just showed up and he had a humor of a Hydra. You know, the thing that no one has. He just has one and he shows up off screen and just handles it. It's fine, I'm fine. She rejoined you, which allows you to make the dream team if you never got Glenn. Before T-Pose Tower, we have a couple things we need to do. There's an optional kid scene in Viper Manor where she can read a note from Luca, sharing her worries about the repercussions of their actions in stopping Lavos. That while they were able to save many lives, so many others that were to be born in the alternate future were snuffed out. That new suffering will naturally be born into their supposed peaceful future. And I just gotta say, thanks for the validation, Luca. Feels great. She also hints that Kid is a reincarnation of Shala and wishes her a happy future. Just back-to-back superb Kid scenes. I love it. When the writers have time to flesh Kid out, it's seriously some of the best content in the game. It's quite a shame that she doesn't really have as much screen time as she could when she spends most of the last 2 acts working with Lynx. And then oops, credits. I'm pretty sure this whole game was made to flesh out Kid more from Radical Dreamers and to wrap up the whole Shala plot point. So this is not the best. You can also combine the Tears of Love and Hate to create the title drop bait. Do Do you get it? I mean, it's okay if you don't. This is very complicated stuff. You have to have a high IQ to understand Chrono Cross. So, how the hell are we supposed to get up to that floating tower, you ask? I think we're forgetting something. A certain special boy?
Here comes the boy. Hello, boy. Welcome.
That's right, everybody. The true protagonist role has now been filled by Starkey. Step down, Surge. The day is saved. Using special alien technology found in his crashed spaceship at the bottom of the ocean, you slap it on your boat and it lets you fly. Fucking radical! It'd be cool if we could actually use it to fly around the map, but it leads to a cool FMV and it will get us into the endgame, so And speaking of the endgame, it's time to make your preparations in both dimensions. Our journey is reaching its end, so how fitting is it to take this time to check in on the people we met along the way? Surge himself has matured and grown on his adventure, used his pain, experiences, bonds, and struggles to find his true self. He's overcome his trauma, freed humanity from fate, and is now fighting with his friends to save the world from the mistakes of those who came before. Lena even mentioning how it feels like he's now distancing himself from her. Sorry, sweetie. Don't date bigots. Alright, confession time. This is where I dropped the game on my first run. Terra Tower seemed long, and I was already beyond mad at how different everything was. But I have to say, this time around, Terra Tower resonated with me. Nature battles for dominance against man-made architecture. Coral protrusions clash against the brick background, serving as a staircase up the tower. The landscape feels devoid of life, haunted by spirits that are driven only by vengeance. It's lonely. The chipper, funky soundtrack takes a backseat. It's replaced by a somber tone lingering in the background, the sound of bells echoing throughout. The few sentient beings here offer Surge and friends a question. Are you willing to save humanity at the cost of more destruction? Are you doing the right thing? In a personal sense, you're merely acting in self-defense. You all didn't directly inflict suffering upon the dragon race or the planet, but that doesn't matter. It can't matter. To save humanity, you have no choice but to wipe out the remaining dragons. You're fighting to survive. If you think about it, that's what your party has been doing the entire game. We hurt others so we can stay safe, even if it leads to more hurt. Is this truly all we're capable of? That thought is all you have to ponder here. Last time I bemoaned the handling of the cycle of violence theme, and yeah, I think the no mark sucks, but I'm starting to warm up to Kato's handling of the subject matter more. That question is not answered yet, and the eventual answer might not satisfy all, but keep that in your mind. Reality bends around you. Eventually, you find yourself in a familiar place, in front of a familiar face. I've mentioned this earlier, but the mysterious prophet in Viper Manor is none other than Balthazar. Oh, and I guess he admitted everything is his fault as part of a 5D chess plan to save Shala from Lavos. I've actually gone over his exposition dump already, so you'll have to excuse me if I
once lived in the kingdom of Zeal. Yeah, we made Lavos everyone's problem.
Yep.
I went to the super future and created Chronopolis.
5-letter word starts with C-R-A.
Are you listening to me? I'm trying to tell you about the time crash.
Nah, I already tried Crash. Thanks, though.
You damn Zoomers. No respect for your elders. You're ruining the environment with your damn phones and your gas-powered time machines and clothes that don't fit anyone.
Isn't the world currently facing, like, impending doom because of your generation?
No!
Before we leave, we finally learn what the Chrono Cross can be used for. It can cross space and time, transferring memories between dimensions. It's also an element, and when used, can unite the melodies of the world into a single healing harmony. Eventually, you reach the top of the tower, a structure so massive it pierces the atmosphere. Or maybe this is nighttime, but my interpretation is way cooler, so shut up. Space and shooting stars surround you. At the end of it all, you slowly climb the stairs as the pained words of the dragon god's anguish welcomes you. All living things need to kill one another in order to survive, fueling a cycle that has plagued the planet since birth. This time, the cycle of violence theme landed for me. The dragon god, tired of humanity hurting others, finds it necessary to take the mantle of judge and executioner. Its motives seem riddled with hypocrisy, but it acknowledges that hypocrisy as a necessary evil to cleanse humanity from the earth. After everything we've just learned about the dragons, we can now see exactly why they would be pushed to this conclusion. We can't sit back and abide by that logic, though. Neither party is inherently selfish here. It's just two groups fighting for what they believe is right. We win, but there's a bitter taste in our mouths as we consider the weight of what we've done.
I'm back, and I've updated Chronopedia.
Oh, god damn it! The Frozen Flame is actually a fragment of Lavos, which can take us to a super Lavos that exists in the far future called the Devourer of Time, which was formed by Lavos, Shala, and maybe the Dragon God. Possibly retconned back into Chrono Trigger via the DS ending? Balthazar wants us to travel to the end of time, where the Time Devourer is, so we can free Shala and humanity. But mainly Shala. He really likes Shala. Balthazar, dude, get a fucking hobby. Stop ruining everyone's lives with your silly little schemes. Terra Tower has collapsed, and your party looks out at it to ponder the future before their final fight. Kid's character arc comes to a beautiful conclusion here. There can be no return to normal after this moment. Destiny is finished, and humanity has to take responsibility for their part in the cycle of pain that caused all this chaos. Except the part that Balthazar caused? I guess he just fucked off, and he doesn't have to take responsibility. We return to where it all began. Opasa Beach. And this is where they ran out of money and decided to resolve the remaining plot threads in the game's last major text dump. The biggest of them all, actually. Let's wrap this up with one final recap and go home. Kid is, and I quote, a daughter clone of Shala that went back in time to save Surge when Wazuki tried to drown him on Fate's orders. Wazuki was turned into a representation of Surge's trauma, a panther. And then he found his way into the military, I don't know. So yes, Lynx is your dad. Would have been nice if there was any amount of closure or foreshadowing for that entire story beat, but whatever. You know, I thought about never mentioning Lynx again after he died, like, ooh, it parallels the game, how deep. But fuck if this isn't a disappointing end to his arc. When I said Lynx sucked back in part 1, it was because of this. I can respect the tragedy in Wazuki's character, and you could argue that this kind of adds to it, but Lynx is a forgettable antagonist and a missed opportunity. At least you libertarians got some representation for once. Moving on. Project Kid was the name of Balthazar's convoluted nightmare plan, and it centered around Kid traveling back in time to when Surge was almost drowned by Wazuki to save him, which split the timeline. Lastly, the Chrono Cross must resonate with a specific tune in order to activate and save Shala from her imprisonment. Shala's been waiting specifically for Surge to save her for about 10,000 years, meaning this, right here, is the conclusion to both Chrono Cross and Kata's work on Chrono Trigger's Zeal arc, which he felt had gone unfinished. If you can't take the hint, this is a gimmick final boss, the king of all gimmick final bosses, and a culmination of the game's themes, represented through its gameplay. Now, if you want the true ending, you can't mindlessly kill the Time Devourer. Fighting this final boss is not a triumphant moment, or a dramatic necessary evil. The lack of music makes that clear. Now remember what the Ghost Kid said about the Chrono Cross. It gathers the sounds of the 6 elements. The future the radical dreamers strive for isn't one created through violence, but harmony. By using elements of each color in a specific order, you can compose a beautiful new melody, one that shines through the violence. The Time Devourer will interject with its own elements to break your rhythm in an effort to maintain the cycle, but you persevere until you get the melody down. And finally, use the Chrono Cross to free Shala. Love to hate, hate to love. Why are we born? Why do we die? Evolution? Survival of the fittest? What can be achieved by harming one another? Killing one another? Each of us tries to do our best under the circumstances we are dealt. There's no such thing as a useless life. Perhaps every single thing in all of nature is just dreaming a dream of life. All of them are perhaps nothing more than dreams, dreamt by the planet before they're born. Eventually, all returns to the Sea of Dreams. We alone don't have the power to heal the world's woes or to solve all its mysteries. Yet, even then, thanks for being born, you. With the elements finally together in harmony, the fractured worlds unify. Surge's comrades bid him farewell, and he's told he can live the life he's always deserved. Kid tells him she'll find him, no matter how far apart they are, across time and space. He then awakes on Opasa Beach, vague memories lingering from his long journey. With an unknown future ahead of him, he goes off to live his life to the fullest. After all, his summer is just getting started. And that's Chrono Cross. Nostalgic summer memories eternalized in one game, and one of my new favorites. Not every thread is resolved, and not every question is answered, but hey, that's life. We do our best with what's given to us and strive to be the best people we can despite that. Cross is a messy, uneven, yet ultimately beautiful game with ambition far exceeding its budget. It's not above criticism, but I can't help admiring it being so desperate to carve its own legacy, while in the monumental shadow cast by its predecessor. That deserves respect. Respect I didn't give it initially, because I was too stubborn to listen. Its final message might strike some as hopelessly naive, but I don't think so. The world can be a better place only when we choose to discard our greed and take responsibility for our actions. Other like-minded individuals are out there. Find them and take action. You don't have all the answers, but that's a good start. Chrono Cross actually brings up that acknowledging that we are faulty isn't really enough. We have to take accountability. This game isn't as consistent as Chrono Trigger, sure, but it's far more interesting. I can assure you, I'll think about Chrono Cross far more often than I will Trigger from now on. This is not the video series I was expecting to make when I went into this project. Far from it. I've grown a lot since first playing it. Hell, I've grown a lot since making that first video. When I was younger, I had a tendency to view storytelling as a checklist of story beats I felt needed to happen. That was 10 years ago, and I can say now that I regret experiencing art under such a clinical lens. Art does not need to be anything, and we shouldn't force it to be a certain way. How many stories do we rob ourselves of appreciating due to our own stubbornness? How many possible paths in life have we missed out on for that same reason? Relationships never formed. People never met. What happened to those what ifs? We'll never know. All we can do is our best to make up for that lost time. Make peace with our regrets, but accept them. They're a part of you. I feel bad for viewing Kato and team's work in such a vitriolic bad faith, but this playthrough opened my eyes. And I think I'm ready to close the book on that part of my life now. Thanks for watching.
Oh my god, that was Chrono Cross Part 2. After making you guys wait a year, again, I'm sorry. It's finally out. And personally, I think this is our best one yet. Also, for those with a keen ear, you're gonna notice that this sounds different than the rest of the video's audio. And that's because as soon as I finished up the first cut, I actually bought a new microphone. Because recording all of that with my glorified podcast mic was hell. So future videos will sound kind of like this. I've written this in other places, but I need to make this clear. The next video will not be part 3. Part 3 will serve as a sort of epilogue, looking into the remaster and Radical Dreamers, but with the state the remaster launched in, and there supposedly being a patch on the way, I think it's good to maybe give it a little bit and then make part 3. Part 3 will also not be an hour long. It'll be probably like 20 to 30 minutes, I hope. I'm gonna give Square Enix about 2 months to announce a patch. If they still haven't, I'm gonna get to work on the next video. I cannot believe I made an hour-long video. It's weird. I hope you enjoyed it. This would not be possible without a couple of the most amazing people I have ever worked with, and I'd like to kind of go into who helped. As always, big thank you to Supreme Zerker for helping me edit the script. Big thank you to @meb_abo for composing the credits theme. On the graphics side of this, huge thank you to Sylphie and Xandarak for helping me with the special art and the thumbnail respectively. And for the cameo voices, huge thanks to both K-Bash for coming back and doing the Link's voice again, and @GC Vasquez for doing Balthazar. Last but certainly not least, this channel is supported by Patreon. And recently I've changed up how the tiers work, where every single tier will now get videos 3 days early. In addition to that, if you'd like to be in the credits of videos, see early previews, commentaries, or have your name be part of the following vocal shoutouts, check out the Patreon in the description to find out how you can do that. This month's Metal Royal Slimes are Alex Austin, Autumn Jennings, Courtney Littleton, Enora Van, Furion's Nipples, Happy Emmons, Horn Curling, I, Frozen Ace, Jeremy DeForest, Moonwatcher, Pinhead, Nathan, Pyre, Key Version, Snigs, Wayne is Boss, and your friend Chuck. Again, thank you all for your support and patience. It really means a lot to me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and stay safe out there. Catch you guys later.
I can't think of anything more libertarian than "fuck you, got mine."